Hello my friends, it's Gabriel with The Last Huntsman Outdoors here. Another Work Tuff Gear knife, and this one I'm very excited about. Here we have the Work Tuff Gear WARHAMMER. Talk about a hunk of steel. It's in that good old SK85. It's a big old hunky chunky knife. Let's give this blade a go. All right, here we have the Work Tuff Gear WARHAMMER. WARHAMMER in that SK85 steel, good old classic steel from Work Tuff Gear. Good old hunkin' chunkin' knife here. I mean, honestly, this is kind of borderline getting into like machete short sword status. Just kind of looking at it, I don't got any measuring tape or anything like that. But it does have, I would say, over 12-inch blade. I'd say probably pushing 13 inches or so. I'll try to let you guys know in the comments below or whatever. I don't really get any specific measurements a lot of times out here. 1/4 inch thick, big old handle of G10. The Kydex sheath here is actually pretty neat. It does split open the top, which I understand why. A lot of times when you get these knives with like a lot of flare towards the end, it's kind of hard to do a Kydex sheath that just like clicks in, so you have to kind of do some kind of hybrid on it. And it does have kind of a little strap thing that straps it in type of thing too. But enough on that. Let's get testing this knife out. All right, so got the WARHAMMER here. This thing is just asking to be doing some chopping here. So I got kind of a dying tree that's kind of leaning over, so I'm just going to do some chopping. It's about, man, I'd say it's every bit of about 4-inch diameter, so it's a little bit bigger. Let's get some work done on this. Oh my gosh. This thing is no joke. When they call it the WARHAMMER, kind of mean it. Now, I think it's kind of weird naming a knife the WARHAMMER, because I always just think of a medieval warhammer. But, timber. Get that out of the way. Wow. I'm very, very impressed with that. I'll be honest, I've had some hatchets and small axes and stuff that I don't think chops as good as this. I'm actually going to go out on a limb on this one. I think this is the best chopping knife I've had thus far on the channel. Now, there's always room to dethrone this one, but thus far I think this is the best chopping knife I've had on the channel. Wow. That's actually a pretty decent tree that I just cut down. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty impressed with that. All right, gonna do a little bit of delimbing here with the WARHAMMER. Trying to be careful. I'm out here in sandals, so you never know type of thing. Why am I out here in sandals? Well, it's hot AF and they're comfy. And honestly, I kind of like the primitive feel of it sometimes, you know. But this thing, man, I'm very impressed with this knife. All right, gonna do some batoning here with the Work Tuff Gear WARHAMMER. I mean, this is one huge hunk of SK85 steel. It can't help but just want to be batoned. Oh yeah. It kind of almost looks like it's a very, very high saber grind, which generally, in my opinion, batons pretty well. Let's try more towards the end here, see if it does any. Actually, I think it does a little better more towards that big belly part right there. Got a few big logs out here to do. Well, I'd say big logs are big for just using a little handsaw to take down. But yeah, this thing batons really well. And sometimes it's just nice to get a big knife out here to baton with, because it gives you a lot of real estate to smack things around with and everything. Oh yeah. All right, one more big piece here. And this one has a bunch of knots in it, so it'll be a little harder, but it will not stop the Warhammer. Right through that knot, did not care. Work Tuff Gear Warhammer says, screw you, I'm the Warhammer, and you're getting it, boy. Getting it done with the Work Tuff Gear Warhammer. All right, well, I have a bunch of little pieces out here. I'm going to just see how it feather sticks. Going to kind of check out that choil on there and go from there. Generally, I won't do feather sticks with a big knife like this. They're just so much easier to do with a smaller knife. However, it is always fun to see a big knife do some feather sticks. And as you guys know, I've always been mixed feelings on choils in general. But sometimes on a bigger knife like this, especially when you do want to try to do some finer tasks, they do actually kind of help. And it's not because, like, I think a lot of people thinks it's because, like, oh, you need to choil to, like, get closer to the edge. To me, that's not the issue. The issue is when you have a choil on, especially a bigger knife like this, it helps the balance so you don't got so much weight forward while you're choking up on it. But this thing actually is doing some decent feather sticks, honestly. Especially for a big knife. Like, are they the best feather sticks in the world? No, but for a knife this big, I'm actually very impressed with it. All right, so we're going to talk about the Kydex sheath here a little bit. So it is, you know, Work Tuff Gears, Kydex and stuff. They generally do a really good job on their Kydex. This one does have a split on the top end, and I understand why they did that. Is anytime you got like a big wide blade that kind of flares out from the base, it's just hard to make a sheath where you just pull it straight out. So this one does kind of click in like this, and it doesn't really have any retention other than the strap, so you do need to use a strap and kind of hook it in like that. So with that, it actually holds it very well, but without that it won't. So just something to kind of take note on. And I will also say, too, it came with this belt loop here. Generally, this ain't really the type of knife that I would belt loop on myself. Just because it's just a lot of weight dangling from your belt and everything like that. I personally, if it was me, I would set this up in like a baldric kind of system. It might have even came with a baldric system. I didn't check all the goodies. Sometimes I just get so excited to get a knife out of the box that I don't even check all the goodies. But I just pulled it out of the box, and this is how it was set up. So if it was me, I would probably advise setting this up with a baldric kind of setup. Or generally, kind of what I do with a lot of big knives too, is I just throw them in my pack. And for that kind of use, this would be just perfectly fine. Or even if you set up some like molly strips and stuff on it and just strapped it to the outside of your pack, that would also be really good too. All right, just going to do a little bit more chopping here with the Warhammer because, well, quite frankly, that's kind of what I feel like this knife is meant for. Man, you get in that sweet spot right there, and this thing hits like a ton of bricks. I like this knife a lot. It's a fun knife to use. Sometimes it is fun to just get out here with a big knife and just smack some things around. All right, gonna do some notches here, and then we'll do some cross grain batoning. Got a little square notch there. Do something for a little tent stake, and then we'll get that cross grain batoning going. Little tent stake notch. Let's cross grain baton this bad boy. So I'm gonna get it right in that sweet spot. I like watching those pieces fly like that. Man, this thing just pulverizes everything that comes in front of it. This is a very, very fun knife to use. All right, so now actually remove the glove and just do that good old ninja death grip and just do some slicing here with it. Just kind of get a feel for the handle and how well this thing slices. So right off the bat, I'm going to say this probably would not be the knife I would grab just for like doing a lot of slicing and carving and stuff. Not because it's bad at it. Actually, for it being such a big knife, actually does pretty good, especially if you could just kind of glide along there and let that belly do the work. It does really good. Let's kind of try that choil bit. Yeah, a little knot right there, but yeah, it does pretty good. But really, for doing a lot of carving and stuff, I would probably grab just something smaller like the Work Tuff Gear Red Wolf, or like this little very good knife company, Venture Light, that he kind of specifically made for me, that we'll be doing a video on before too long. Really enjoying that knife. But so this thing slices pretty good. It's big. I mean, so you kind of got to recognize that. The choil, to be totally honest, I'm kind of still mixed opinion on it. I feel like choils kind of work and don't work on certain knives. And I will say it kind of does help distribute the weight of it a little bit better in your hand. But I'm not so sure if I totally feel like it needs it. As far as the ergonomics go, keeping it on 100% honest, right up here choking up, it just feels slightly awkward on my hand. However, holding it like back here and choking back, it feels amazing. So right off the bat, I'm just going to straight up say that out of knives that I've been using thus far this year, this is honestly one of my favorite knives that I've used, and it's definitely going in my top 10. However, I think where this blade shines is just a dedicated chopper. I mean, that's what I would use it for. I'd use this thing for clearing brush, trees, and, you know, with a name like the Warhammer, that's kind of what it's meant for, you know. And so, yes, can you do some like carving and feather sticking and stuff like that? Yes, you can, but this probably wouldn't be the knife I would pick for it. Not because it's bad at it, but just because it's just so big. It's not necessary. But let's move on to something else. All right, so we have to do it with a knife called the Warhammer. Could this be like a good potential like combative fighting, you know, in preservation of life and limb type of knife? And right off the bat, I'm going to say, hell yeah. Now, would I want to carry this thing when I'm like rocking out like a full like battle rattle, rifle, ammo, all that stuff? Probably not. However, if it was like full-blown like zombie medieval, you know, post-apocalyptic type of scenario where ammo might be kind of getting a little scarce, but I'm not like totally sure if I want to carry like something as big as a sword on me or something, or you live like deep behind enemy lines, or you're some like peasant in Europe and, you know, you can't even own the Rudy Tooty Pewties and all that good stuff, and so you just need something that you could potentially use as like a bladed weapon, then yeah, I'd say hell yeah. So let's just try out the Warhammer. So right off the bat, I'm gonna say you're not really gonna, I mean, it can kind of stab, but with that kind of short clip, kind of stumpy clip on there, it's not really a stabber. Where I say that this thing's going to be kind of definitely better for is weight and balance wise, it actually feels kind of like a tomahawk, honestly. And so it just chops and slashes really amazing. So it's also not going to be like the fastest blade in the world just because of the weight. However, when it does hit and connect, it really does hit and connect. So, and with this being this thick of steel and made by Work Tuff Gear, this thing's just going to be a powerhouse, and you're probably never going to have to worry about breaking this thing. So, yes, you definitely could use this as like a last resort weapon, and it would definitely work for that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and finish up the review on the Work Tuff Gear Warhammer. Now, right off the bat, I'm going to say I think this is honestly one of the best chopping knives that I've had on the channel. I am absolutely impressed with this thing, and so much so that I will be giving this knife a part 2. I'm going to be doing that with the channel from now on, is just knives that I really like. I'm going to be giving them a part 2 and kind of giving a longer term review on it. This knife batons, chops amazingly well. It's not really meant for your like more finer bushcrafty type of task, but you know, with a name like the Warhammer, it's not really meant for that. It's meant for a big heavy chopper, which I think it does that absolutely amazingly well. I'm still trying to get my opinion on the choil. Like in some ways I like it, in other ways it's kind of like, I don't know. But I kind of generally feel that way with choils, or most choils. I either love them or hate them. But so overall, I am very impressed with this knife. And if you just want that like super badass hard use chopper, look no further, honestly. I'm going to be trying to post below on the exact date. I didn't do my due diligence on when these are dropping, so I will let you guys know as soon as I know, and I'll just post it in the comments and in the description box below. So this will be seeing a part 2. Let me know what you guys think, and as always, be prepared both physically and spiritually. God bless, and carry on.